August 19, 1992, Balmoral Castle, 10:47 p.m. The ancient stone walls of Scotland's most private royal retreat had never heard anything like it. Princess Diana's voice echoed through the corridors as she screamed at Queen Elizabeth II in a confrontation that would forever change the monarchy. For 45 years, no one had dared raise their voice to the Queen. But Diana wasn't just anyone. She was a woman pushed beyond her breaking point, finally unleashing years of suppressed rage about Charles's affair, the palace's lies, and the systematic destruction of her marriage. When Diana stormed into the Queen's private sitting room that night, she wasn't coming to plead or beg. She was coming to declare war. But the most shocking part wasn't Diana's explosive accusations. It was the Queen's response that revealed the royal family's darkest secret, the build-up to battle. August 1992, the summer of scandal. By August 1992, Diana's marriage to Charles had completely collapsed. The Squidgy Gate tapes had been leaked, revealing intimate phone conversations between Diana and James Gilby. Andrew Morton's explosive biography, Diana: Her True Story, had exposed the princess's bulimia, suicide attempts, and Charles's ongoing affair with Camilla Parker Bowles. The royal family was in crisis, and the Queen had summoned the entire family to Balmoral for what she called urgent discussions about the future of the monarchy. Diana knew this wasn't a family gathering. It was a tribunal. She was being called to account for the damage her revelations had caused to the crown's reputation. But Diana had spent weeks preparing for this confrontation. She wasn't going to Scotland to apologize. She was going to finish what she had started. The car journey from London to Balmoral took 8 hours. Diana spent every minute rehearsing what she would say to the woman who had allowed her son to humiliate and destroy her for 11 years. But there was something Diana didn't know. The Queen had been preparing for this confrontation too. The arrival, August 19, 1992, 4:30 p.m., Balmoral Castle. When Diana's car pulled up to Balmoral's imposing entrance, the atmosphere was glacial. No family members came to greet her. No warm Scottish welcome, just stone-faced staff who directed her to her room without ceremony. Diana had stayed at Balmoral dozens of times during her marriage, but this felt different. This felt like entering enemy territory. At 6 p.m., she was summoned to pre-dinner drinks in the drawing room. The entire royal family was assembled. The Queen, Prince Philip, Charles, Princess Anne, Prince Andrew, and Prince Edward. The conversation was stilted, formal, cold. "Diana," the Queen said without warmth, "I trust your journey was comfortable as it could be under the circumstances, Your Majesty." Charles wouldn't even look at her. He stood by the fireplace, drink in hand, staring into the flames as if Diana didn't exist. "I think," said Prince Philip with his characteristic bluntness, "we need to discuss the damage that's been done. The monarchy's reputation has been severely compromised." Diana felt her anger rising. "The damage, Philip? The damage was done years ago, when your son started his affair. I just told the truth about it." The room fell silent. No one spoke to Philip like that, ever. "Diana," the Queen's voice was ice, "we'll discuss this properly after dinner, privately." Diana realized this had all been orchestrated. The family gathering was for show. The real confrontation would be between her and the Queen alone. But first, they had to survive dinner. The dinner from hell, 8 p.m., Balmoral dining room. The formal dinner was a masterclass in passive aggression. The Queen sat at the head of the table, Diana at the opposite end, as far apart as possible. Charles sat to his mother's right, still refusing to acknowledge Diana's existence. The conversation was deliberately mundane. The weather, the grouse shooting, local Scottish events, anything to avoid discussing the elephant in the room. But Diana had reached her breaking point. "Your Majesty," she said, her voice cutting through the polite chatter, "since we're all here together, perhaps we could discuss why Charles's relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles is considered more important than his marriage vows." You could have heard a pin drop. Prince Philip's fork clattered against his plate. Anne looked shocked. Andrew and Edward stared at their food. Charles finally looked at Diana, his face flushed with embarrassment and anger. "Diana, this is neither the time nor the place." "When is the time, Charles? When is the place? Because for 11 years I've been told to be patient, to understand, to keep quiet while you conduct your affair in plain sight." The Queen's voice was dangerously quiet. "Diana, you will control yourself." "Control myself?" Diana's voice rose. "I've been controlling myself for 11 years while your family destroyed my marriage, my happiness, and my sanity. I'm done controlling myself." The Queen stood. "We will continue this discussion in my sitting room." Immediately, the battle lines were drawn. Don't miss this explosive detail. What Diana said that made the Queen lose her legendary composure. The screaming match. 10:47 p.m. The Queen's private sitting room. When Diana entered the Queen's private sitting room, she found Elizabeth II standing by the fireplace, still wearing her formal dinner attire, but with her composure visibly strained. "Diana, your behavior tonight was unacceptable." "My behavior?" Diana's voice was incredulous. "My behavior is unacceptable. What about Charles's behavior? What about your behavior in enabling his affair? You will not speak to me in that tone. I'll speak to you however I choose. You're not my queen anymore. You're the woman who let her son destroy my life." For the first time in her 66 years, Elizabeth II was speechless. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Diana pressed her advantage. "Do you know what it's like to lie in bed knowing your husband is with another woman? Do you know what it's like to smile for photographers while dying inside? Do you know what it's like to be told by your mother-in-law that your pain doesn't matter because the monarchy is more important? Diana, you're hysterical. Hysterical." Diana's scream echoed through the castle. "You call me hysterical for having human emotions? For refusing to pretend that being cheated on is acceptable royal behavior?" The Queen's mask finally slipped. "You married into this family knowing the responsibilities. I married into this family believing in love. I was 19 years old and I thought I was marrying a man who would love me, honor me, cherish me. Instead, I got a man who was already in love with someone else. Charles has duties. Charles has a wife." Diana was shouting now, all pretense of royal protocol abandoned. "Charles has children. Charles made vows in Westminster Abbey in front of the entire world. And those vows included obedience to your husband and respect for this family." "Respect?" Diana's laugh was bitter. "You want respect? Then earn it. Stop protecting his affair. Stop pretending Camilla doesn't exist. Stop treating me like I'm the problem when I'm the victim." You won't believe what the Queen said next that sent Diana into a rage. The nuclear option. The nuclear option. The thin sheet tie secure. 11:15 p.m. The gloves come off. The Queen's next words crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. "Diana, if you cannot accept the realities of royal marriage, perhaps you should consider whether you belong in this family at all." The threat was clear. Divorce, banishment, the loss of her titles, her children, her entire identity. Diana's response was nuclear. "If I don't belong in this family, then neither do my sons. And when they're old enough to understand what you did to their mother, what their father did to their mother, they'll choose me over you." The Queen went white. "You would poison my grandsons against their family. I would tell them the truth, something this family seems incapable of. The truth." The Queen's voice was dangerously low. "You want the truth. The truth is that you've been a disaster for this monarchy, from the moment you married Charles. Your emotional instability, your need for attention, your inability to understand duty. I understood duty. I produced your heirs. I carried out thousands of royal engagements. I made your cold, outdated institution relevant again. The people love me more than they've ever loved you." That last sentence hung in the air like a bomb. Diana had said what everyone knew but no one dared voice. She was more popular than the Queen herself. Elizabeth II's legendary composure finally shattered. Get out of my house." But Diana wasn't finished. She had one more nuclear weapon to deploy. The final blow. 11:30 p.m. Diana's ultimate threat. As Diana moved toward the door, she turned back for one final strike. "Your Majesty, I've told Andrew Morton everything. The bulimia, the suicide attempts, Charles's affair, the way this family treated me. But I haven't told him the worst part yet." The Queen froze. "What worst part?" "The part about how you knew. How you all knew about Camilla from the beginning. How you let me walk down that aisle, knowing I was marrying a man who was in love with someone else. How you sacrificed a 19-year-old girl to protect your son's reputation. Diana, you wouldn't dare. I would. And I will, unless things change, unless Charles ends his relationship with Camilla, unless this family starts treating me with the respect I deserve as the mother of your future kings." The Queen's voice was barely a whisper. "Are you blackmailing me? I'm giving you a choice. The same choice you gave me 11 years ago when you knew about Camilla but said nothing. You can do the right thing, or you can face the consequences." Diana walked to the door, then paused one final time. "Oh, and Your Majesty, I'm not the one who needs to worry about belonging in this family. When William becomes king, he'll remember who loved him and who sacrificed him for duty. Sleep well." The door slammed behind her, leaving the Queen of England alone and shaking with rage. But Diana's threats were about to backfire in the most dangerous way possible. The aftermath. August 20th, 1992, the morning after. Diana awoke to find a note slipped under her door. "Diana, you have gone too far. Pack your belongings and leave Balmoral immediately. Your threats and hysteria have shown your true character. This conversation will never be repeated to anyone, or you will face consequences you cannot imagine." Diana one more card to play. She wrote her own note and left it on the Queen's breakfast tray. "Your Majesty, I'm leaving Balmoral, but I'm not leaving this fight. Every threat you make against me will be reported to Andrew Morton. Every attempt to isolate me from my sons will be exposed. I'm not the frightened girl who married into this family anymore. I'm a woman who has nothing left to lose. Diana." By noon, Diana had left Balmoral for the last time. She would never be invited back. But the war she declared that night was just beginning. The phone call. 2 hours after Diana left, the Queen made a call that would change everything. "Charles, your wife has made threats that cannot be ignored. She must be stopped." "What kind of threats?" "She claims she'll expose everything about our knowledge of Camilla before your wedding. She'll destroy us all unless you end your relationship." Charles was quiet for a long moment. "And if I don't, then we'll have to consider more permanent solutions to the Diana problem." Neither of them knew that Diana had left a recording device in the Queen's sitting room, capturing every word of this conversation. The screaming match at Balmoral wasn't the end of Diana's war with the royal family. It was the beginning of something much more dangerous. The truth revealed. Years later, royal biographers would piece together what really happened that night at Balmoral. Diana's confrontation with the Queen marked the moment when the monarchy's treatment of the Princess of Wales crossed from indifference to active hostility. The Queen's threat about Diana not belonging in the family was the first official discussion of divorce. Diana's counter-threat about her sons choosing her over the monarchy was prophetic. Both William and Harry would eventually distance themselves from royal duties, choosing their mother's memory over their grandmother's institution. But most significantly, Diana's ultimatum about exposing the family's pre-wedding knowledge of Charles's affair gave her temporary protection. The royal family couldn't move against her while she held such damaging information. The screaming match at Balmoral was the night Diana stopped being a victim and became a threat. For the first time in royal history, a Princess of Wales had declared war on the monarchy itself, and she was winning. The legacy. Diana's confrontation with the Queen at Balmoral changed the royal family forever. It marked the moment when Diana transformed from a problem to be managed into an enemy to be defeated. The conversation also revealed the Queen's true feelings about Diana, not as a beloved daughter-in-law, but as a disruptive force threatening the monarchy's stability. Most importantly, it showed Diana that she was completely alone in her fight. No one in the royal family would ever prioritize her well-being over the institution's reputation. But Diana had learned something that night too. She had power. The power of truth, the power of public sympathy, and most dangerously of all, the power to threaten the very foundations of the monarchy. The screaming match at Balmoral wasn't just a family argument. It was a declaration of war between tradition and truth, duty and love, the crown and the woman who had become more popular than the crown itself. Some wars are fought with armies. This war was fought with words, secrets, and the devastating power of a woman who had nothing left to lose.